walk, jam, nitty gritty. You're listening to the boy from the big bad city. This is Jam Hot. This is Jam Hot.
Welcome to Who's Hot with your host, Will Chung.
Hello and welcome to a very special Who's Hot podcast. My name is Will Chung. I'm the host of Who's Hot, but I'm also here actually with both of my co-hosts, which for the first time for a while. Becky, how are you?
Hi, nice to be back. Thank you. I can't talk properly all the time, but hopefully that won't ruin the podcast. Good to be back.
I'm sure you'll be fine. Welcome back, and we missed you missed you last week.
Yeah,
Mark,
welcome back, Bex.
Hi.
Hi, Will. Hi, Becky.
Hiya.
How you doing, Mark? How's the training going?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, stepping up the last few weeks. We're really ramping it up now, ready for OCR World Champs, and going well.
Good. As I've said, this is a special Who's Hot podcast because we're actually not going to be covering UK OCR series race. We're covering the OCR Games. So I'm also going to welcome Dave Peters onto the chat. Dave, welcome.
Hello, mate. Thank you for letting me come along and have a chat with you guys.
No worries. Really, really looking forward to it. But again, I've also said this is a extra special podcast because not only have I got Dave, Becky and Mark, I've also got our boss, the big muddy duck, Alan. Alan, hello, welcome.
Greetings, Will. Thanks for letting me on. I'm loving this.
I can't believe that this is the 10th edition of Who's Hot and you've only just managed to get on. Have we been doing something wrong or something?
I think you haven't invited me. That's the problem. I keep trying to get in and sneak in. You've taken the top spot on Monday now. You've jumped from midweek to Monday. I might get slowly pushed out, but then you gave me this come on, Who's Hot, and I'm thinking, yes, they do love me. They do love me at Who's Hot. So it's great to be on with you guys.
Well, welcome on. And do you actually want to introduce the rest of our guests and talk about why this is extra special Who's Hot podcast?
Yeah, so we've got the Patreon group and the pub group on social media, which is our founder members and some guests and that, and the patrons are on there. And we thought, let's give our patrons a little bit of extra. So we invited them all on. We've got a great group on here today. I'm not going to go through everyone else. Some of them are going to jump on at some point. So we're actually videoing this, and then we're going to put it on YouTube, and we're going to put it on the social media. And I'm so excited. This is our first ever one. Will, how nervous are you?
I'm not nervous at all because the thing is, I knew you've been really cheeky and not having a live podcast on the Swift Half or on your interview. You actually put it on the Who's Hot podcast. And I think you just did that for a reason, just so you can get a few more bloopers.
You know me too well. You know me too well.
So welcome, guys. Dave, let's come back to you. So we are going to be talking about the OCR Games, which is your baby. I'm on the webpage at the moment. Let me just go through a little bit of this blurb. We are looking for the UK's finest obstacle course racers who will come out on top of this epic event. A true test of the overall best OCR athlete found through tests of endurance, speed, technical ability, and out-and-out racing ability in this multi-event competition. Whether you're looking to win and take home the OCR Games UK champion title or enter yourself in against the best of the UK has to offer, we want to see what the UK has got. Dave, this sounds absolutely fantastic. And I see that it's been 4 years in the making. Talk to me about OCR Games, just about the initial idea, first of all.
Yeah, so it kind of came about as a training concept, really. We started off with kind of looking things, obviously we're a training centre predominantly in terms of what we do. So we looked at kind of whenever we're sending people to championship races or taking people on programs, we've kind of looked at all of the different areas that we tend to sort of break down in their programming in terms of what they need to do. And we noticed, obviously, you've got certain sections more related to strength. You've got obviously more sections around technical. You've got different distances of races, which factor in your speed and your endurance. And then obviously, when you start looking at races like Spartan, where they're kind of now, going down that line of standardization, where you're kind of looking at shorter distance races, longer distances, even into ultras, what we wanted to do is we wanted to start shaping people's training around more specific elements that they would need to focus on. And then that kind of from there spilled into sort of testing those athletes in different environments. And from testing with athletes of my own and athletes who'd come to the training centre to train with us, we started to find, why don't we, use these sort of tests of these different areas and put people up against each other? So we ran an event last year, which was very similar. It was a OCR Gladiator, which kind of took the concepts of the areas, but that kind of was a bit more fitness orientated and less specific towards obstacle course racing in certain events. So what we wanted to do is now sort of adjust it and make it into this event that we've always wanted, and actually put it specifically into obstacle course racing and the skills related to it. So yeah, that's kind of where it came from.
Brilliant. And I see you've got 3 different tests, got strength, speed, and technical. So before we go into, I guess, the deep depths of those, why do you think those 3 are important for the OCR racer, and kind of what was in your mind with that overall test of those three abilities?
Yeah, so we're actually testing 4. We've actually got a 4th, which is endurance as well. But those 3 are the key 3 which kind of set the competition up. So yeah, you're very right with what you're saying. The technical, obviously, I think technical speaks for itself. I think that's one area where, especially when you start looking at maybe in terms of foreign races, have maybe had a bigger influence. And since we had the UK Championships over in this country a few years ago, I think the rigs and the more technical type obstacles, or even just technique on the basic obstacles, has kind of become a bigger deal with regards to people's training, and then therefore that's spilling over into some of the races now. We're seeing races like Nuts taking on bigger rigs, challenging people differently. We're seeing obviously Spartan going down that road of kind of the different distances, having the different obstacles related to them, and so on. So obviously technical is a big deal. I think technical is maybe as a training center, I think it's overtrained. I think a lot of people focus too much on maybe their rig work and not necessarily on the strength conditioning that can help it, but also the other elements of racing. If you're not a good runner, then you're not going to win obstacle course races. So we want to look at not just those technical elements that people kind of want to do as the challenge and maybe to sort of test their skill set, but we've also then decided to look at those other areas to kind of round off what makes a good OCR runner. So if you're going to break it down into smaller components, you're probably looking at how quick are they, how agile are they, what's their balance like. So that's how we're going to test them in the technical and the speed events. Obviously, what's their skill set like? I think when you say technical, I think people maybe overthink rigs as well. We're not testing just rigs, we're testing vaulting, we're testing balance. We're trying to give a real balance to the technical course. It's not just a case of put them on rigs and away they go. And then also on top of that, it's a case of looking at the rigs not being super crazy hard, really hard handles, grips that just make the grip really hard to hold on to. We want to see people using good technique, getting across rigs quickly. So there's no point in me just putting crazy hard things, which are just going to make people fall off and do penalties. We want to see people racing. So the rigs aren't crazy difficult, but those people with good techniques will benefit from having that. And then, yeah, so like we say, with the strength, obviously strength is a big part of racing, especially if we're looking for an overall athlete. Again, you go to the Euros, it might not be strength, might not be a bigger factor, but when you look at the overall OCR scene and you start contemplating races like Spartans, or you start taking into the effects Oblivion, Nuts Limitless, or 4-lap races where strength becomes a factor because sheer endurance element to it and the volume on the course as well. So that's why we wanted to take those as the key areas to sort of test them against. Endurance, I think, speaks for itself. And when it comes to OCR in general, classic OCR in this country, I think most people would agree that endurance is a big factor. So we knew that we needed to test it. So we've added that as a 4th event. So those 4 events will piece together, and then it will all culminate in a race head to head later on.
Brilliant. So without any spoilers, any space hoppers?
I contemplated it. Just don't have the budget, you see, Will, to bring them all in. Otherwise, we would have gone for it. Yeah.
Mark would have been right there, right, Mark?
Oh yeah, definitely. If I want to wait, I love a space hopper. Just what sort of length is the distance you got for the running, Dave?
So for the endurance event, do you mean?
Yeah, well, endurance or speed. What's the running section coming under? Because I know you've got some nice fields at the back there that I haven't actually seen yet. You're going to take them down there, which is quite varied terrain in them.
Yeah.
What sort of distance you're looking at?
So the speed event is just under a mile. So it will be basically a 1 mile test, lots of changes of direction, lots of agility based stuff. We're still all of the tests. So this is where it differs from an event that we ran similar last year, where we're testing speed. We want to make sure that we're testing speed, obstacle speed. So there is a big chunk of obstacles. So those that are familiar, those that have been to us before would have recognized the proving grounds, which is the outdoor area of Rumble. So the speed section, there's a good portion of running. It's probably about maybe 3/4 of a mile of running with some crawls and some basic obstacle stuff. That then leads into the outdoor area, and you'll do 7, I believe, off the top of my head, 7 obstacles back to back. And then it finishes with a quick sprint down and back around the field. So it's got obstacles in it as well, because we're looking at how quick are people across obstacles, not just how fast is somebody. So yes, you'll need to be a quick runner, and they'll just run it for about 3/4 of a mile or so. And then there'll be a series of obstacles, and then there'll be a short sprint to finish, basically. So yeah, about a mile for the speed course.
Nice. So there's high heart rate levels in. There's no way getting any pacing. It's going to be lung busting.
Yeah, all out effort, high heart rate. Expect it to be over very quickly. The testers, we've had some test runners run it at sort of 1/2 to 3/4 pace, and they're going around in around 9 or 10 minutes. So yeah, it's going to be quick. It's going to be fast.
What sort of level are they tested? Obviously, you don't need names.
Yes, no. So these guys are probably sort of age groupers, maybe. So
you're looking at half that for the top guys, then, you reckon?
Yeah, I reckon you're going to see people go around in about 6-7 minutes. 6 minutes probably.
Nice. Get some good footage. I take it is endurance got part of the running as well.
Yeah, so we have an endurance event as well. So I might as well go through it, shall I? So the endurance event itself is it's designed in a staggered stage. So you'll see probably the simplest way to explain it is from Olympic cycling, so track cycling. You'd have seen an event, I'm sure, before where effectively the whole pack of runners will all be together. They'll run a lap of a field, which is about 1/2 a mile long. It's just short of 1/2 a mile. That pack will be paced for the first 2 laps, so they won't be able to go over a certain pace. They will all run as a pack. Then after the first 2 laps is done, so once they're 1 mile in, they'll be free to run at whatever pace they feel is the right pace to go. And what happens is every single lap will have a designated number of people who will be eliminated. So for example, say it's 2 people that will be eliminated at a time each lap, and that will be the last 2 people across the start finish line. There is an additional way that you can be eliminated as well, which is if you're lapped during any point. So if you're lapped by the front runners at any stage, you'll also be eliminated from there then.
I like that. That's a good way. That's a good way to get some gamesmanship going. If you know someone's a good all-rounder but not the greatest runner, you're going to look to take them out by pushing the tempo, get that pace up and see if they can hold on. Like that. Good stuff.
Yeah, it's really tactical. I think quite exciting for an endurance race, especially in OCR where often we are running alone. So it's definitely going to add something to it. So that means then for each lap, you don't sort of reset each lap. If you go off faster, you you maintain that gap.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. No, you got it exactly right. So there won't be any resetting. So like we say, we'll pace the first 2 laps, so they'll be paced, and then after that, yeah, that's it. So if someone gets lapped, they'll be eliminated, and then other than that, it'll be every time that there's across the finish line, you will have the last 2 people in the pack will be eliminated. So effectively, the front pack will always continuously around, and people will get gradually dropped off as the time goes on, and it's a case of working hard to try and stay onto the back of the pack, I guess.
Is that just running? There's no carries or obstacles involved in that?
Yeah, again, so we wanted to make it more obstacle specific. So we don't want to just literally put people out on a run, because obviously it's not quite as specific as it is. Obviously, this is a running test, really, but there are some natural obstacles. So there's a couple of trees, sort of type things, so fallen trees that you'll be going over. So there is some real basic obstacles on that as well. It's not just the case of a run, but it is predominantly a run. Yeah.
It's good. That gets the track runners out of their rhythm, doesn't it? So it's that whole the dirty running, as you call it,
and
people that go out in the trails.
The terrain they're on as well. There's a decent elevation to the terrain, so it's a long stretch downhill and there's a long stretch uphill, and then 2 shorts to join the lap. So it's going to test everything. It's going to be heavy on the legs. It's going to be heavy on endurance. I'm sure that people are going to want to take it out fast to try and drop some people off early. It's going to be really interesting.
I think because there's some very determined people both listening on this call and also on the start list, that if you don't have some kind of limit or someone pushing the pace, it could go on all day.
Yeah, but this is where the elimination comes in, right? So the very least, at the very worst case scenario, everybody comes around as a pack, and then there's a sprint to the line. So and I'll take that. I'll watch that all day long. So it's going to be good.
You got some decent marathon runners going. They can have you out there for all day.
Mark, this sounds ideal for you. I know you're a bit of a trail runner. You love the hills. I think this is right down your alley, this particular test.
And the pain game as well, so you can take the most pain. I'll
talk about that with
there's a few
Lou
names on the list that would be just as desperate for it. Dash is probably hiding in the background there, thinking, yes, he loves a bit of this as well.
Mike, you've got a question?
Yeah, so that lends to, like, I've just been watching, a lot of people have been watching the European Championships and stuff in the cycling. Now, will everyone will each the team start at the same place, or will they start in different parts of the track?
No, so it'd be a mass start. So it'd be a rolling start effectively, because it'll be a mass start at the beginning. The first 2 laps will be paced by our pace runner. So they'll hold a reasonably steady pace that will keep most of the pack together. And then from the 2 laps in, effectively that pace runner will peel off, and then it will be left to everybody to go. So from the very beginning, yes, they'll all start together, but potentially if you can't keep up with a pace runner, then you might get dropped off a little bit before the elimination laps. But the pace running is going to be held nice and comfortable. It isn't going to be a quick pace at all. It'll be nice and steady. The idea is we want everybody to have run a mile before the racing starts, and we want everybody to be as closer to a pack as possible when it does get to the elimination phases.
It's like you say, Dave, the cycle track racing, is it the Derny? There's a guy on the Derny, isn't there, for a few laps before it really starts to kick off. But yeah, Mark, I was just thinking, right down your alley, as you say, Pain Cave, absolutely fantastic. Dave, strength, let's talk about that.
Yeah, so obviously we know that strength's a big factor in a lot of the races. So we wanted to make it, again, obstacle specific. So again, we've done events in the past where we've tested out and out strength, where literally we've put obstacle racers lifting things that are far heavier than they may be familiar lifting in races. So this event, we've stripped it back a little bit. We've made it more specific. So we're using more familiar sort of skill sets, if you like. So it starts with a big drag. Now, what we've wanted to do with this strength event is we want to test the strength, but strength endurance as well. So it starts with a big drag. You'll have tires which will be tied onto a loop, which will be looped around your body. You'll then drag those tires down, and that is about it's 400 meters. So it's a 200 meter downhill and a 200 meter uphill. So you'll be dragging it without any hands on the ropes, nothing on. The loop will be around your body, and that's it. You use your momentum and your forward power through your legs to drag those items behind you. Men all have 2 tires, women all have a single tire, and it's on a long strap. So the strap being long means it pulls you, it bangs you about a little bit. It's a real challenge. Once you carry that up the 200 meters up the hill, you get to a carry. They'll be carrying it in a bear hug position. So in an unfamiliar position, trying to fatigue the arms a little bit, trying to get the grip working a little bit. So they'll be squeezing onto a bag across their chest. The idea being that they'll need to keep the bag quite high, because if the bag starts to drop down above the hips, then they'll start to bash into the legs, and it makes the running of that difficult as well.
I saw that at the CrossFit Games, and it absolutely obliterated some of those competitors, didn't it? So
it really can. Yeah, it really can. It's a real draining sort of movement to be doing. So, and a lot of these guys will be really unfamiliar for them as well. And while it's on a rec bag, so it's a comfortable piece of kit that they're used to using, it's not going to be a light piece of equipment, and it's long. It's going to be probably one shoulder to the one side that it's going to be over to one side of them. It's going to be awkward. So that's about 100 meter carry. And then they put it on their shoulders for a 400 meters, half a mile, carry with the bag on the shoulders. So it's then a carry for half a mile. So it is a lot of strength. reasonably long for it. So it's going to have that strength endurance. They've also got to run that bag up the hill. So they will be taking that bag downhill and uphill and over some logs and some basic natural terrain obstacles as well. So it's going to be a real test. Again, this is probably a short event. The test runners are doing it in about, I think it was 9:25 was the first test runner. So you're going to see the fastest people probably getting around in 5-6 minutes.
Is that after the run endurance as well?
No. So what you've got 3 events which act like a round robin. So the speed, the technical, and the strength, they're all split into different heats, and they're a round robin. So this is where you'll see some different scores as well, because out of all of the heats, you'll do one of those 3 first, and then one of the others second, and one of the others third. So all of their orders will be different. So effectively, you'll have 12 people will be doing it in one order, 12 people in another order, and another 12 people in a different order. So you will have some people will get that first, and some people will get that third. So they'll have advantages and disadvantages at different events at this point, because those who get strength first, if they love strength, great. If they hate strength and they get it last, then they're not going to like that very much. However, they'll get speed or technical first, so there'll be an advantage on that event.
If you do that to me on purpose, Dave, I'm doing strength last. Although it might just ruin me for everything else. So I think last is fine.
Yeah,
That was really shallow.
The speed,
So, Dave,
the endurance, you're not going around all together. It's just going to be in your heat.
Right, yeah. So speed, technical, and strength, those 3 events will just be in your heats. So there's basically 2 pairs of heats which will go together. So you'll have 12 people maximum will be on your timings, if you like. So you'll do speed, strength, and technical in a different round robin order. And then everybody does the 4th endurance event all together, which will be 4th event. And then they've got the race. And this is the other factor with the overall endurance of the overall day as well. If someone goes hard on that endurance event, they could easily blow themselves out and not be able to race afterwards.
I'm just having a look through your different heats here as well, so you can see. So on say heat C, group 1 and 2 will be running together.
Yeah, so like I'll pull it up in front of me 2 seconds.
Yeah, I was just thinking who's going to be the ones out there running and not letting go. I'm just on heat C at the moment. We can do names a bit later on, but I can see a couple here that are just not going to want to quit.
Yeah,
I was about to say, Mark, let's just hold on to those names for later on.
You run all together, Mark, in the endurance. So the heat.
Yeah, in the running event, the endurance event, everybody will be together. So that will be one big pack. So 4th event is endurance.
So yeah, so across the tactics, just be differently timed beforehand.
Yeah.
Oh, got yeah. Oh, that makes more sense, because otherwise it's just luck of the draw who you've got with you, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. No. 4th event, everybody's together.
Oh, lovely stuff.
So just to recap, just make sure I've got this right. You've got the 3 round robin heats.
Yeah.
Then everyone does the endurance. Then there's the head-to-head.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's it.
So let's just walk it back a second then, Dave. In terms of the scoring, and I know we'll talk about the Joker as well, and I think that's really fantastic. But let's talk about the scoring, how that works, and how it gets to the endurance and then the head-to-head.
Yeah, so basically, imagine all the heats have done the speed events. So all 3 heats have now gone through the first 3 rounds. They've done their speed events. Everybody's speed results all get put in one big table against each other. So all males against each other, all females against all the females. And then the points are awarded based on position. So whoever the top person is, podium place will get top marks, top points. There's then a 5-point gap to second place, a 5-point gap to third place, 5-point gap to 4th place, and then there's a 2-point gap between them and everybody below. So that goes all the way down. So the higher up you finish, the more points you get. And if you're on the podium spots, it's heavily weighted on the points, so you'll get more points for being on the podium spots than you will anywhere else. They all get added together.
The way the points are then also mean that you only need to just beat somebody. It doesn't matter if you know someone's second and third. Doesn't matter if you're 10 minutes difference or 10 seconds. It's still
exactly that. So
conserve.
Yeah. So
but
if it was
heats, you wouldn't really know. So
it's difficult on the first 3. Yeah. On the technical, the speed and the strength is more difficult because you don't know what people are like in the other heats. But on the endurance one, for example, you could decide to just sit out front, but just literally sit just out front. You know, there's no need for you to go crazy and win by a mile, win by 1 second or win by 100 seconds. It doesn't make a difference.
Sounds like a Dominic Toretto from Fast and Furious, if anyone knows their movie quotes. So we've got to the endurance. We've got the winners of the endurance. What happens at the head-to-head point then to crown the winner?
So the winner will be crowned from a race, and that is for everybody who's still in with a chance. So again, different to previous events we've run. So the points will add up. Every point that you earn basically works up to a second per point. So for example, the first place person scores 300 points. Let's just say, for example, they get 300 points. They will be the first place. Therefore, they start at 0 when the race starts. Everybody else, whatever their gap is in points, will be how many seconds they will start behind the leader. So the leader's advantage is in terms of time. So they will have a timed head start on anybody else. But it's first person over the line on the race who wins. So if you could be a minute behind, but starting, but you could easily catch that and win in the race.
That's what they had at the toughest final for the Elite Series. The points earned over the whole series gave you a head start in the final. It was first over the line, which was quite cool because you got to like start on your own. It was like a nice intro.
Yeah, and we quite like that, you know, we quite like the spotlight being on those people, but also we like the opportunity that even if you found yourself towards the bottom of the leaderboard on all of those events, it doesn't mean you can't win, you know, whereas we've done points events before where realistically, mathematically and realistically, you're not going to win because you're too many points behind come the last event. So this means that if someone really, really runs hard, there's every chance. And also, you know, we're doing penalties in this race as well. So if people fall off of obstacles in the race, they will lose time doing obstacle penalties, whereas if people run clean, they're gonna catch up time as well. So there's every opportunity that they can win.
Is that a 15-minute penalty, Dave, or just?
Yeah, consider that.
Sorry, I did put that in. Mike said same as Spartan Beast at Trifecta World Champs, and also for as aficionados in OCR, that also happens in the pentathlon for the last 5K race too. Brilliant. All right, so let's talk about some names. I'm gonna just read out the start lists that I've got here, and Dave, if you know of additional male, female, let's have them as well. I've got some stuff from the Rumble Fitness Facebook page. So we've got Sam Jackson, Leo Brimacombe, Philip Airy, John Paul, Harvey Mitchell Divers, Finley Greenleaf, Ramuna Sukas, Chris Shipley, Chris DeStefano, Dan Grant, James Burton, Jason Molam, Darren Martin, Morgan Maxwell, Scotty Barker, Jesse Betts, Gavin Hogarth, Andrew Ballantyne, Ricky Carino, Luke De Benedictus, Matt Roberts, Das Scanella, Brad Rivers. Anyone else on top of that, Dave?
Just a couple of changes. So Ricky Carino can no longer come, which is unfortunate for him. So he's been replaced by Johnny Reedman. We've also got the addition of Danny Morgan. He's another guy, does a lot more ninja style training. He's also coming as well. But yeah, I think that's pretty much the list.
Brilliant. And female list, we've got Shelley Tompkins, Rachel Brown, Laura Hayward, Ellie Brimacombe, Carly Jackson, Louise Farriman, Becky Neal, Helen Gilmore, Pip Rainbow, Ellen Wells, Debbie Love, Erica Paul, and Claire Bancroft.
Yeah, so I don't think there's any additional. We have unfortunately lost Ellen. Ellen's dropped out today, which is a shame. She's not been able to now come up on Sunday, so unfortunately she won't be there. And I believe Laura might also be on holiday, so she may not be doing it either. So we are down those guys, which is a shame. But we do have some other really strong females there, so it's all going to be great on the day.
Brilliant. Mark, we was talking before we started the podcast, and also you was kind of mentioning the heats.
Yeah.
Just without you kind of talk about your top, let's just talk about how stacked both of these are.
Yeah, there's some great names in there, the OCR names, but also I noticed one that I've recognised some ninja competitions. Chris DeStefano is unbelievable grip strength and technical, but it'd be interesting to see how he stacks up with the run endurance side of it, because grip wise he'd beat anyone on the course. I've seen him at the backyard jam and things like that. He's that good, but for running, but yeah, all over it, you got male and female, you got some top names in there from like all over the place. You've done well. You got a better list here than Spartan get or any of the other races get, because you got guys that only do Spartan, you got guys that don't do Spartan. Yeah, you've got a great mix, really good, some excellent battles going on.
Yeah, we're lucky. We're lucky we've got a good mixer all the way through, really.
Becky, your thoughts, especially against your competition too, I guess.
I mean, what strikes me is, in this podcast, we often talk about who's favourite based on the course and what the style of race is. And, we can usually make those predictions based on those things. But this is like kind of the opposite. This really is looking for that all-rounder across those strength, speed, technical and endurance disciplines, and of course racing head to head and having the endurance to kind of pull that off consistently. So I think it's a different question to what we normally ask, and so it's definitely going to be more difficult to choose, especially in the women's race. Like, people have extremely good at this or extremely good at that, and don't necessarily always have the full package. So it's going to be a tougher call, and I think that's perhaps where the Joker is going to come into play.
You got some good rivalries going on there as well. I've noticed. Well, there's one that's well, yourself, quite hot. It's Darren Martin and Chris Shipley. These two have been battling on every single race all season, all over the place, and so they're going to be wanting to take chunks out of each other. You got Das and James Burton. You got Scotty Barker's going to want to have a big piece of Luke de Benz. I would have thought. There's some great battles going through there. So it's going to be good to watch.
Like, you've got young ones, you've got people from Spartan, people from Scotland, different kinds of races. And I think also that the Rumble team is going to be hard to beat on this, especially when it's speed across the obstacles, and with all the practice and just excellent training that they have in that kind of scenario. It's going to be tough to beat them.
Mo's an animal.
Yeah.
Dave, Becky did mention Joker. I think we forgot to mention the Joker. Let's just talk about that, because I think that is a way, if the racer knows their own strengths, it's a way to pull a few points back.
Yeah, so again, like I love a bit of tactics in all of these events, and kind of any event that we run, I like to have a tactical element to it. I think, again, if we're looking for the best overall athletes in obstacle course racing, you need to have a skill of knowing yourself as a racer as well. So I think that's where the Joker really comes in. So the idea being on the Joker is that whenever you play it, it will double the points that you accrue for that event. So you'll be able to play it on the first 4 events. You can't play it on the race, unfortunately. I'm sure people would like to do that and double their positions, but no, it'll be any of the first 4 events. They can play it on that event and it will double their score that they come out with. So there's a couple of different ways that they can go about using it. The first way would be to use it on something you're particularly strong on, and at which point double the best. If you hit a podium position, you might be doubling a high points percentage. Whereas you might decide to use it the other way. If you fancy yourself as a pretty good all-rounder, but you've got one glaring weakness, then that weakness area, you use your Joker there and you try and minimize your losses, so to speak. So again, it's quite tactical as to how they're going to go about using it. You may even just find that someone finds that everybody's used it on their first 2 events, and therefore they'll hold it back to use it on their 4th or something like that. There's going to be lots of different ways that it's used.
So when exactly do we play the Joker?
So directly before you will start your event, you will inform your judge that you intend to play it, and they will mark that down.
And do we know when other people have played their Joker?
If you ask them, you might.
It's another layer of tactics, Dave, that's all.
Yeah, when are you using yours on, Bex?
That would be telling. I don't know yet.
Yeah, don't tell.
Or maybe I'm bluffing. Oh.
Yeah, it's a good system, because if someone's a good runner, they're going to go for that endurance one to pick up the points there. But and others, you got some. You looking through the list there, you've got a range of them. Little Libby, she definitely do it on the technical. She's just going to fly through any of your stuff there, rather than the strength. Or she can double her points on the strength. There you are. I didn't see it at the bottom of the screen. So yeah, so each person's going to have their own sort of thing they want to sort of boost up, aren't they? Really. Good idea. Yeah. You can see you put a lot of thought and a lot of planning into this. It's definitely a long time in the making.
Yeah, it's going to be good, man. I'm really excited for it. I'm really excited to watch it. We decided to film it as well. So we're going to film it and put out a small documentary on it, so we can put it out to the world and everybody can watch what happened on the day. Unfortunately, we're not in a position to have 1 million spectators down there, but I'm sure everyone would like to watch this. So we're going to try and film as much of it as possible and get it out there.
The one thing we haven't talked about, Dave, I've looked at the timetable. It's a long day. It's not just an hour and a half of racing, or an hour and a half of high rocks. It's pretty much a full day. But, that in itself is a tactic. It's about how you're keeping yourself hydrated, keeping yourself nutrition. you know, making sure you've got enough of that downtime when you can to try and kind of recover as much as you can. So that in itself is, I guess, you know, a part of being an athlete.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you say, it's a 9 till, you know, you're probably going to be working on and off between 9 in the morning, sort of 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, all the way through till about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So you're talking 6 hours of on-off exercise. You know, that doesn't lend itself to everybody anyway. So the fact that these guys have got to be asked to go into a competition, hit 100%, and then walk back out and rest, and then go again and back out and go again and back out, that's a new challenge for most people. So that is going to take its toll, you know. And when you add up the two mileages on the endurance alone, alongside the endurance and the race, you're talking anywhere at the moment. We're going to finalize it tomorrow for sure, but it'll be anywhere between 8 and 10 miles minimum that they will cover over the course of the racing. So it's a long day. It's a lot of time on your legs, and like you say, there's fueling to think about, there's warm-ups, cool downs, recovery, all of that kind of stuff. We'll do our best to help them. So we'll provide them with warm-up facilities. We'll provide them with good space to relax and rest in between events. They'll have designated areas all set aside. So we'll do our best to give them the support in that. But yeah, it's a real big challenge throughout the day.
Becky, I'd normally go to you in terms of, you know, kind of the fitness and that part, but I don't necessarily want you to give away all your tips, but anything that you'd like to share with the athletes?
I think Dave's covered it. Whatever Dave says, he's in charge here. We haven't mentioned the weather yet, and of course we always mention the weather. What's it looking like? Where are we? I'm just going to say near Milton Keynes, right? Swanbourne.
It's supposed to be right down here, but I don't know.
So in badminton this weekend, but that's totally different.
Sunday, oh, perfect. Cloudy, 18 to 20 degrees, 10 miles an hour wind. Lovely, fine.
Oh yeah, that's perfect race conditions. Can't ask for more than that. You're not stuck in.
Not going to cool down too much there.
You haven't got to worry about the gingers. We can just crack on.
Okay, we know who's going to win there.
or the boldies, Mark.
Yeah, all the boldies, no, the pedals.
All right, thanks, Dave. Thanks, guys. As we said, this is a special live podcast. Before I ask Mark and Becky to give us their top picks, as I always do at Who's Hot Podcast, I'm going to just open this out to the audience. Matt, I know you've got a few things. You've always got a few things to say, but Matt, why don't you just give us your thoughts?
Cheers, mate. I just want to say, like, obviously, it says a lot about what Dave's setup's got there to attract some big, like, household names, and it's like I think we're all really struggling to decide who's gonna be up there. I think for the guys, for me, Scotty Barker is always a top 5 athlete. I think Luke de Bennett will be up there. I think Gavin Hogarth, I think, is going to be kind of like top 3. That guy is an animal, like, from his high rocks, and I don't think he did as well as he wanted to in the European Champs, but I think he's going to come back fighting and strong. The guy is he can lift. Then on the ladies' side, there's a few names that I don't really recognise on there. I think knowing Becky, she'll probably be up there top 3. I think Libby, with being like a little whippet on the rigs, I think she'll have a bit to prove. I think Louise, she trains at Rumble, right? I think anyone that trains at Rumble will have a little bit of an advantage. Morgan as well, strong. I've been down there previously, and Dave's done a lot of work after that though. So yeah, they're my. I think Gavin Hogarth is definitely my wild card kind of thing up there. I think for the guys, I think Louise Ferryman will be one to watch as well.
I think you're right with Ferryman. We had her on the podcast last week, talk about Pain Cave, and Mark and her were just waxing lyrical about the Pain Cave. So there's definitely some strengths in terms of what she can do there. Alan, I know you put your hand up. Do you want to give us your different changes of picks? And it's probably changed again after listening to Matt.
As we say, it's like this is a who's up of who's up. You know, you could literally just put names in a hat and pick them out. I think what what Dave said about the Joker is going to play a massive, massive part. So my picks have been based on, I think, someone who's going to like smash one of the sections and potentially do well in the others. So I've gone for a top 3 on men. I've gone with Scotty, yeah, and I've gone with Gavin, just like Matt said there. I'm interested to see what Jesse Betts does. Jesse Betts was at the top of his game 2 or 3 years ago, and I know he's moved into a few other disciplines. I know he's been down to Rumble. I know he's been doing a bit of high roxy stuff. I think Jesse Betts, for me, is the man to watch. He's coming in a little bit under the radar. He's not done OCR for a while, and I think he's going to be there. But I'm going to say you've got a couple other people that are going to throw a spanner in this works. Matt Roberts, yeah, he's going to throw a spanner in works, especially on the heavy carries. Ramunas, real strong, and he's got this explosion about him. You know, when he does rigs, he just explodes on them. I think he's going to mess up a few people's jokers. And Luke de Benedict, not run for a while. What's he going to bring to the game? Big shock there. Women wise, I think it's a 2-horse race. I'm going to be straight up front. It's between Louise and Becky. It's a 2-horse race. I'm sorry, Becky, I'm putting pressure on you there. I really think it is. I think you've got the pace to potentially beat Louise in the running sections. I think Louise has got the strength to beat you in the strength sections, and it really depends on what Laura does. I'm worried about Laura and Shelley for you. Where do they play their jokers to mess up your game? And that's my picks. That's what I see out there.
Laura Hayward's not going, is she? You said, Dave?
No, I think she's going to be on holiday. So unfortunately, she's had to pull out. Yeah, so not. But Shelley will be. Yeah.
Oh, see, that's it. Then it is a 2-horse race. That's my predictions, guys.
All right. Well, we've got those ones locked in. Mark, what about your top picks? Again, we know this is difficult to maybe go for 1, 2, 3, or maybe you will go for 1, 2, 3. But top picks, who are the ones to watch?
I'll go ladies first. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go with Lou. Sorry, Beck, but Lou just loves the beast in. I've got you second, and I've Kelly Tompkins in third. So that's my 3. The men, this is the one that's been doing me, and I just think Mo's home. This is Mo's house. I think Mo's going to want to put in the proof. He's really come on. His stamina is improved. I think Mo's going to nick it. But after that, I'm looking at Luke de Benz is his kind of thing. Das is another one. Loves a bit of CrossFit. Loves to run. I can see Das doing well. Again, with Gavin Hogarth as another one. But I'm going to go with Mo first, Luke de Ben, and Gavin Hogarth.
Ooh, you're actually putting numbers to names as well. Becky, before I come to you, Mike, you're going to put your neck on the line?
Yeah, a little bit. I think I'm not brave enough to go past third on the girls, so I'm going to put it down to Becky and Lou, and I'm just going to put it that the winner's going to play their joker in the ace position. So I think it's going to come down to that. After that, the lineup is just mental, so I'm not going to be brave enough to go third. When it comes to the men, I think there's a crazy amount of amazing athletes there, and I'm sort of putting it down to where we are in the season, what's happening. We've got a lot of athletes out there that are both doing high rocks and OCR, so I think the high rocks training is going to help the strength out there. Like we've seen Jesse Betts out there. Scotty Barker's been there as well, and like you've said before, where is it? Gavin, probably them on the 3. Luke de Benedict's come back out on training. He's been doing a lot more on OCR, and his running's gone mental now. So that may be the 4th. We'll go with that.
Nice. Becky?
Before I reveal my predictions, Dave, can I check the final? So after you've accumulated your points with the 3 things on the endurance thing, then there's the head-to-head race. How many people are in the head-to-head race?
Yeah, so all the women will go in all against each other, and all the men will be all against each other.
Okay, yeah. So, and we're separated by seconds based on our points.
Yes.
So ultimately, I think it is going to come down to that race because, I might be this many seconds ahead or this many seconds behind. But over a race which could be how many minutes are we thinking for that race?
So at the moment, again, we may actually change tomorrow, but it's looking likely to be about 5 to 6 mile race.
Can I just say that is some excellent pre-rigging there, Bex. Well done.
Well, I think it changes the tactics for the whole day, really, because if you have somebody who is used to beasting themselves and does that on everything and then gains an advantage in terms of the points, but it still comes down to a head-to-head race over several minutes in which you could make that up, especially if you're fresher. It's maybe I'm revealing too much. I think, you know, we're all talking about who's going to play the Joker where, and, you know, the points will be that. And if it ended like that, I think, and yes, that's the case, but we don't want the Joker to ruin the whole system. So that race is there at the end, and I think it will still come down to that race, and people running or chasing people down from behind might be extra motivated. So I think I'm going to take that kind of stance, and that will inform my decisions. I think for the men, I've got Morgan out in front. You know, he's raced so many times over that area. I don't think he can probably make any more gains, really. And he will have gained enough points to have enough space, I think, to have a good starting position. Same with Darren, really. And then I think I'd probably put Scotty next over Luke. I think those two would be ahead of some of the other men on the list there. But it's going to be pretty close in the top 5 or 6, I think. Yeah, I had Laura, but she's not going to be on because she did well last year at the whatever you called it last year. I can't remember, sorry. But it is different and she's not here. So yes, me and Lou will battle it out. I know I've got Shelley and Libby as well in my list. Shelley, I think will do really well across the divisions there. So we shall see. I won't make any excuses.
So Dave, we've talked about kind of the top runners, and as Carmen come in, you know all these people, pretty much all these people that are here. What about the ones to watch? Those that are kind of the dark horses, the ones that we don't really know about. Who are the ones that possibly that they'll be up there, but we just don't know, and actually the up and coming runners?
I think when you look at the lists, you get drawn to those names which you're familiar with, don't you? So I think it makes a lot of sense what you're saying. I think there's a few guys on that list who are going to be unknown to a lot of people, but they are very high performing ninjas. I think if those guys all pack together in that technical event, they could easily push, you know, take one person in first place. You could then end up with second, third, fourth and fifth all being ninjas, which will push all of those OCR people down. And if those people have played their jokers at the right times as well, then there's every opportunity to have made a big gap between someone, which will, you know, effectively come down to the head starts at the end. So just to put it in perspective for you guys as well, if someone was to win all the events and someone was to lose all of the events, there'll be at least 4 minutes between them. So 4 minutes is a big gap. So we're talking real worth. So what Becky's saying about the points, it's worth earning your points, because there could be a 4 minute gap between first and second, and over 4 miles, 4 minutes, minute ahead a mile. It's a tough challenge for anybody. So these ninjas, I think there's a few guys on the list. I think Chris Stefano, I think Mark mentioned him earlier. I think he's, in terms of his technical ability, I don't think anybody can question it. So we know that he's going to have a good technical ability. But let's not underestimate the time trial finals that were run at the PT barn a couple of years ago. Chris was, I believe he was in the top 10. I might be wrong, but I believe he was in the top 10. And that was a pretty stacked field that went out on there. So Chris is no slouch. You know, he's got some legs on him as well. And we don't know what he's been up to in the last 2 years. I haven't seen him since. So there's a few other ninjas on that list as well, who will perform, I'm sure, and will surprise a few people. I think then also some of the names which have been mentioned on certain events. So Jesse, Matt Roberts, these guys are good they're strong people. They're great overall athletes. I think Jesse's been out for a while, so you might find that there's a bit of rust on there, but he's one of these people who'll work hard. He'll put his head down. I think you're going to see even some of the other guys, you know, that I don't even know superbly well myself, but I know that Leo Brimacombe, for example, he placed, I believe it was top 5 in the Nuts technical 1 lap last summer. So, you know, we know he's got some legs on him. These guys can easily put a result into the places which can separate athletes and can create gaps between people. So where we talk about people like Darren and Chris having head-to-head throughout the whole season, someone creeps in and separates them in an event, and all of a sudden there's a bigger gap there than what you would be expecting from minute go. So you're going to see changes like that. And I think it's the same in the women. I think the women's fields, I think at the moment, personally, I think you can see that there's probably a separation towards the top, but there is literally the rest of those girls are really competitive. And I think, again, one mistake on a rig and you slip off and you have a penalty, that's it. You know, they're going to catch up. There's going to be things happening. So the field of the women is actually really tightly packed. And I think it's very difficult to pick between them. Then you talk home advantage. You know, there are Rumble athletes who are going to be far more familiar with the obstacle setup that we have. We've purposely kept our obstacles for this event and or for all of the events and the race, that no one's been allowed to practice on anything. We've kept them separate, and we haven't revealed the rig lineups any different to the guys to what we have done released on Facebook. So, but you know, they're familiar with the gaps. They know what the gaps feel like on the rigs, so they know what their swing and the momentum is going to need to be carried through. They know going over some of our walls and vaults, they know, you know, how they would normally go over. When you're familiar with obstacles on your home territory, it's going to make an advantage. And I think that's where it becomes difficult to look past people like Morgan, past people like Darren, Louise. You know, these guys have some advantage because they're used to the setups we have. And while they're not practiced the exact rigs and the setups that we're using on the day, they will have some advantage because it's being run across fields that they're used to being work on and similar. So you're going to see people like Shelley surprising people. Shelley's got a great engine. She's a good runner. She'll easily separate runners in a running event. You've got Rachel, you know, people like that who train with us week in, week out. She's going to know the rig setup. She's going to know how to reach certain gaps across differences and stuff like this. So it's a real open event, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot closer than maybe. Well, I say a lot closer than we think. I think all of us look at that list and you can tell on both lists it's going to be tight no matter what.
Amazing. Thanks for that, Dave. So just before we close off, as we always will, we'll have a commercial break. And Alan, back over to you.
Oops, I had trouble unmuting then, Will. That's a blooper for you, isn't it? That's one of the bloopers we've got to put in at the end there. One thing I just want to say before we come over to the commercial break, we hadn't touched on, there's a great junior one going up there. So we know Libby's running in the girls' race and the juniors, but Arvin Mitchell Divers and Finlay Greenleaf, that's got to be one to watch on the junior section. Going to be really interesting if that pans out. But yeah, back to the commercial break. Guys and girls, anyone in the UKOCR pub and any Patreon this week, if you put your selections of your top 4 in the men's and top 4 in the women's into the group before midnight on Saturday, we are going to be giving away a Who's Hot mug. So if you're in the group, no, top 4. I've got Mark saying top 3. No, top 4, so we can try and make it a little bit harder. Top 4 predictions in that order. Usual rules apply, competition, but this is only for Patreons and members of our pub group. Will, back to you, and thanks for letting me join there.
Thanks, Alan. Dave, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been absolutely fantastic. You can probably follow up on the OCR Games by following Rumble Fitness on Instagram. That is rumblefitness_UK. Mark, again, thanks always for being our co-host. You can follow Mark on Instagram at Mark_Dixon_OCR, and our Becky, who's hopefully going to get better quite soon, especially ready for Sunday. You can follow Becky on Instagram at the Runner Bean UK. Guys, thank you very much for listening. We'll be back in September, or maybe before, if we get some overtime from Alan once again. Please do join us on Patreon, because, you know, all this overtime that Mark, Becky and I are doing, we could do with getting a couple of drinks here and there to get paid. So buy us a coffee or join us on Patreon from just £2 per month. Crap, there's our first blooper.
All his eyes watching you, Will.
I was getting there. There you go, Alan.
It started, Alan.
You did so well then. We have no 5 seconds here because this is live, Will. This is actually live, so this has
Oh
to
god
stay
damn
in
it!
the time.
I was doing the 5 seconds as well, ready for the edit. Oh shit! There you go. Guys, thank you very much for listening. Thank you to the live audience for being online and watching us. And I know you've just been waiting for the blooper, so I've just put that in, especially for you. It wasn't actually a blooper. So it's goodbye from myself, goodbye from Alan, goodbye from Dave Peters, and goodbye from the rest of the team. And we will see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.